Or you can not follow us on social media. You can listen to all these other stupid fucking podcasts out there that just go, this Raw was not fun. What's Edge doing? Why is Edge doing that? Why are they doing this? Where's Bailey? How come Sasha's gone? You can listen to that bullshit. Or you can listen to people. You can listen to people who've been watching pro wrestling since 1987, 1988, and we have good takes on all the past professional wrestling. You don't fucking need to watch the same.
And we're funny and respectful and knowledgeable and
Dave's a piece of shit, and I've said that from the day one.
Yeah. Dave, you're a fucking joke. We only put you in that box because you're a joke.
Dave, you're a joke. So go ahead, everyone out there. Don't follow us on social media. Don't do anything like that. Keep listening to your stupid shit. Listening to all you guys mirror each other every fucking week going, I just think this is what I think.
Fuck, I miss Cuz.
Brock Lesnar has to be in every main event. Just shut the fuck up and listen to our podcast. You don't have to think about today's product. You could listen to us talk about stories from memories past, if you will. Yes, do you honestly protect the freedom of the choice? Doesn't this don't need to like you cowards? Do you dominate this world is wrong to be?
What's up, guys? Our Wrestling Podcast back at you with another episode. This is Dave Vicious along with Jess the Total Package, Craig the British Bulldog, Joe and Cuz are out this week, bringing you our perspective on the world of professional wrestling. No inside sources, no ties to the industry, just stories from the diehards, sharing opinions with you. Champion. Can someone feed me today's topic?
David, we're doing another installment of Missed Opportunities, and this time we are covering... And this time we are covering Paul. I think it's better when Craig is not prepared for it because it always is an instant hit.
Because you see me go, and then you see me like dig for my cell phone and go,
This Missed Opportunities installment is Paul Roma joined the Four Horsemen in 1993. Is this a missed opportunity, Dave? Should they have embraced it more than they did, or should they have just let it die on the vine, which is what happened?
Let's find out. We're gonna find out.
And actually, can we just talk about there is a certain bias here because David likes Paul Roma, so we should.
I like Paul Roma. I like Power.
David is a piece of shit.
We should give some credence to David and his love and respect for Paul Roma. Because this extends from his love of Hercules Hernandez and Power and Glory.
Pieces of shit.
And so there will be some discussions in the next 15, 20 minutes about...
There might be.
Yeah.
All right. It's and
fine. Is it or is it not a...
And you know what? We'd all be lying if we didn't say there was a special place in our hearts for Power and Glory. Because, damn it, they were cool.
They were pretty cool. Yeah,
they were
Vince
cool.
Really screwed the pooch on that one.
They were a missed opportunity. Maybe that's another missed opportunity.
I think it
Power and Glory.
Yeah, we might talk about it. For audio fans, give us a listen on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and Google Podcast, or watch our videos on YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel. Can you do us a solid on social media and give us a follow on Instagram or Twitter at O.W.P 2019 or on Facebook at Our Wrestling Podcast? Let's talk about it. There's the overview right here. In 1993, Paul Roma signed a contract with World Championship Wrestling, WCW, and became part of the Four Horsemen alongside Nature Boy Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. Ric Flair had returned from WWF in early 1993 to rejoin WCW, promising a Horseman reunion at Slamboree. The rumors were that Tully Blanchard would make his WCW return after almost 5 years. But instead, we got Paul Roma? Who put a question mark into that? Ron Burgundy never read anything on that prompter. Ron Burgundy. Sorry. So, I mean, it wasn't expected, but it could have been cool. Paul Roma would be a great addition to that set. But I think, like you point, Jess, I think people just weren't really flying onto it. But leading up, Paul Roma was enjoying lower mid-card success in the WWF from 1987 to 1981 as part of the Young Stallions, and then later Power and Glory. That's an interesting little story how that comes up. He's part of the Young Stallions, and he gets upset with Jim Powers. Is that right? And he gets mad, and the Rockers kind of, kick him out of the ring, and then eventually Hercules comes to his rescue. I know that's over a set of weeks, and they formed their own tag team. I think Slick was involved, just saying. It's a lot of fun. Power and Glory. Any singles action saw him losing to major stars, but he was picking up wins against enhancement talent. He would depart the WWF in late 1981 after a European tour. Anything to add to that, guys?
Yeah, and I think that Paul Roma checked. So did Jim Powers for that. I mean, Young Stallions looked like $1 million, right? And even when you got Power and Glory, even when you got Power and Glory, they looked like $1 million. Power and Glory, I think their big thing, and it's been talked about like by Bruce Pritchard or whatever. Especially back here in the early '90s, like Vince was all about faces are faces, heels are heels, and if heels make the mistake. Out of their control, by the way, of getting over and getting cheered, then Vince doesn't turn them face and push them, which you would think they would do. Vince goes, well, that didn't work out. And that's kind of what happened to Power and Glory.
Like this. No, indeed not. And look at that maneuver. Wow. That's the Glory. And the Power set up the Glory. The party could be over for Slick. Last week, you will recall, we heard from the Warlord, who stated he didn't care if it was Power or Glory in his way. He was going to go all the way to the top.
They were a cool tag team. Go back and watch SummerSlam 1990 when they beat the Rockers in the opening match. They cheat. Fucking Hercules hits Shawn Michaels' knee with a chain and puts Michaels out for the whole match, and they beat up Marty Jannetty the entire time. But when they hit their fucking awesome finisher, by the way, on Marty Jannetty and pin him, that crowd popped. And Vince was like, not on a pay-per-view, not on my watch. Like, it's just from that moment, Vince was like, they're not working. Even though we would all think like they're over, right? Like, but that's not being over to Vince back in the 90s. Being over is doing your job and getting the reaction that. So being over for Power and Glory would have been getting boos rained down on them. But instead, they were in Philadelphia, and the Philadelphia crowd, who's a little bit more rowdy than other crowds, like Chicago and other places like that. Yeah, they cheer heels a lot. And so Vince just, what? And then, but Power and Glory actually got face receptions wherever they went, kind of after that, depending on where they went to.
And
Jess, so, like, Vince was like, no, like, that's not good.
About that. Let's get into that, Horseman. At Slamboree 1993, in the month of May, Roma shocked the wrestling world, not in a good way, as he was surprised as the new member of the Four Horsemen. There was never supposed to be a surprise new member because the entire time it was advertised as the original Four Horsemen reuniting, with WCW being a combination of old school wrestling fans and anti-WWF fans. You can imagine the negative reaction when Roma was announced on a special edition of Flair for the Gold.
Member of the Four Horsemen is legitimately one of those kiss-stealing, wheeling-dealing, limousine-riding, jet-flying son of a gun that girls have kissed y'all and made you cry. I'm talking about none other than styling and profiling pretty Paul Roma. Come on out here, Paul. Hey, does he not fit the demographic? Keep screaming, girls. Don't be ashamed of it. Paul, welcome, brother, to the Horsemen.
Even though Anderson and Roma won the WCW tag titles a couple of months later, the company and the fans would never accept Roma as a Horseman.
Oh, it's got him! No! We've got new champions!
Which is fascinating. After it got a little loose when Benoit became a Horseman later, I think it was way more accepted because
I don't even know if it was accepted then. Like, Bischoff never really respected the Horsemen either, which was later. So, like, I don't even know. It was just they were a faction because NWO was so big, they needed something. So they kept the Horsemen alive in 96, 97, 98, which I wish they would have just killed them before that. But, you know, so Flair comes back. He left. The Horseman was really dead in, like, 90, 91 anyway. Flair leaves for the WWF. He comes back. Well, what do? WCW kind of needed a repackage. Bischoff was just promoted in '93 to executive producer. He wasn't the president yet, or vice president, or whatever of executive relations. He was like the producing guy. But still, Bischoff never really cared for the Horsemen. But when they first brought Flair back in '93, like I think Ole was helping out with the booking. I think at that time, Rhodes might have been back. Flair had.
I was gonna bring
Flair
that up.
Flair had some contribution, and if you look at the picture that I have like behind me,
yes,
and what Craig has behind him, like this was a face group. Flair was a face when he came back because he was going to get a face pop no matter what. Even if you tried to re-debut Flair in '93 as a heel, no one's going to fucking boo that guy.
No,
Everybody loved Ric Flair. So I view this. The reason why I put this as a missed opportunity is because I'm like they instead of seeing it as a brand new opportunity to bring Roma in, you don't have to play off the fact that Roma was a part of the Young Stallions or a mid-card tag team in Power and Glory. No offense, Dave. Sorry. You don't have to play off that. You look at Roma. How does he not fit that? He looks awesome in a tux. He's a good-looking guy. His physique, we all know his physique. Roma was fucking, by the way, very talented in that ring. And there were so many different things. So instead of them embracing that, going, dude, we can make the Horsemen fresh and new again, they tried to make Roma like under Flair and under Anderson. And I'm like, dude, look at Flair. He was already in his fucking 40s here. Mid-40s at this point. Anderson, same thing. Anderson always looked fucking 40 even when he was 15. That's the way Anderson's always looked.
Roma should have been the enforcer here easily, right? He should have been the new
But then
enforcer.
Leading into Slamboree, they hyped a reunion of the original four, which the original four was Anderson, Blanchard, Ole, and Flair. That was the original four. Tully didn't want to come back. And then Wyndham wasn't going to come back because he was part of the storyline as Flair was going to feud with him coming back in. So Wyndham purposely wasn't going to be brought back. So if you can't get Wyndham because you're writing him the opposite of the storyline, which is fair enough, and you can't get Blanchard, then what the fuck are you doing? Just say instead of saying, "Hey, we're reuniting the original Horsemen," we're gonna rebrand the Horsemen tonight. Get it? Brand cattle. So we're gonna rebrand the Horsemen tonight. We're gonna bring in some fresh blood, a new stallion. Get it? Get it?
Yeah.
And then they bring in Paul
That's
Roma.
what I wanted to ask you,
Jess.
Jess. So maybe I'll pull it over to Craig. Craig, just to bring you in here. How come none of this blame was placed on Ole at this point? Because couldn't you argue, to Jess's point, that the Horsemen were just tired?
Well, I mean, I went in there happy, going to be a Horseman. Obviously, Dusty welcomed me with open arms. Ole Anderson grabbed me, pulled me in a little room and said, "Hey, listen, man," he goes, "they told me that, you're a good worker. We want to put women in the seats. You're a good-looking guy, got a good body. So, goes, I don't know. They say you're a good worker, but I've never seen you work." And right off the rip, I said to myself, you know what? I think this guy's full of shit. I mean, how could you bring somebody in? You don't know how he works. You've never seen him work. Come on, man. You pulling my chain, I'm saying to myself. So right off the bat, I'm like, okay, this guy's an asshole. I don't get along with him because he's already lying to me. I just got to assume that. Is it wrong to assume? Yeah, but you know what? Come on. You don't look at the product before you bring it in? I find that really hard to believe.
The booking could be part of it if Ole's to blame, or Flair's like, I don't care about that. I'm just saying Ole is one of the Four Horsemen here. He's not even wrestling. I mean, really, he's not.
Correct. He was way gone, by the way.
So it's a tired Horseman. It's like the Horseman that needs a big drink of water or needs an overnight sleep to get back. Like, Ole's not doing anything to help this. And you can almost argue, like, when they come out, like, oh, it's fucking Ole, and then they go, who the fuck is this guy?
It's Ole Anderson, by the way, in 1993.
I can only tell you the disappointment we felt when it was Roma. I can only tell you that what they promised, and they pulled the rug out from under you. Like, it was a terrible.
Point, Craig, what would have been what? So let's say they didn't pull the rug out from under us. Let's say Tully did agree, and then they brought out Flair, Anderson, Tully, and Ole in 1993. Would that really have been better?
I think at that night it would have been better than Roma.
Okay.
Because we did not respect Roma that night. Like, I remember being a fan that night, and we hated it. We were like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yep.
And we wanted the original Horseman, and what we got, and it's not fair on Roma. I'm not disrespecting or discrediting Paul Roma because he was a talented dude, and you wanted him to succeed. And sorry, Dave, go ahead.
No, you're good. No, I was gonna say, Craig, like, the first night, yeah, you could be pissed about it because it's not what you expected, but it's what they did after to really push him at the bottom of the Horsemen and not put him towards the top as an enforcer or at least as a protector to Flair or maybe even a title holder that could have pursued that. And you start to see, actually, this is a rebrand of the Horsemen, and they can kind of roll into it, but they never did that. They just had him to look good, really. And yeah, of course it was going to fail.
You just don't get to put Paul Roma in the Horsemen after what the Horseman is and has always stood for. And it was very
Craig,
difficult to swallow.
My question is, and why I wrote the topic is looking back in hindsight, you are correct. I had your same exact feeling. I remember we watched this pay-per-view in my living room probably, and we were like, what the fuck are they doing? But looking back, was there a missed opportunity? Should they have embraced the fresh guy? Because people cross over from WWF to WCW and vice versa all the time. And Vince, of all people, is famous for just renaming them all together. Why couldn't they have just fucking given Roma a new start here and just been like, you mean Roma? Like, look at the way he looks, like I said, his physique. You can't put the U.S. title on him or the TV title on him right away and push Roma to the moon?
Especially with Arn. Arn took me in, with open arms. Invited me to his home, which I thought was great. And but when he got around Rick, or Rick got around him, all three of us were together. It was a different story. It was a different picture. I started noticing when we went out, I started getting more attention than Rick did, and I think that bothered him. I don't know. I could say whatever. What's the truth? I don't know. I just believe that to be. I just saw some. I don't know, jealousy, animosity. He's not the dog anymore. Got a young stud in town, you know what I mean? Definitely better looking than you, definitely better built than you, so now what? What do? How do you keep promoting you? So, like I said, Arn and I thought we got along just fine.
Like,
what's wrong with that? Nothing.
Not world title. I'm not saying world title. TV title, U.S. title,
and
making him that old Blanchard role or that old Barry Windham role that he went to second in the title.
You know how it could have worked, though? And I'll give you the example. It always rolls back to Evolution. In Evolution, was Flair the guy? No.
Triple H was.
And they could have shit. Triple H was the guy. Flair was the mentor. And then they had the rookie guys that were kind of like the enforcers that they were also bringing in.
Orton,
Batista and Orton. And I argue that Evolution, in a lot of ways, is better than many versions of the Horseman. Maybe not the original, but probably every other version since then. Benoit's version comes a little close because they understood you don't have to. You don't just because it's Flair. Flair doesn't have to be the guy, and it's okay. We can make our guy. And then the same thing with The Rock. The Rock took over, the Nation. It had to evolve, and so there's different versions of the Nation of who's in charge.
Or back here in '93, to be a little bit more fair to Flair, because he was a little bit younger compared to what he was in Evolution. Flair could be one of the guys, but he doesn't have to be the guy. Flair could be the guy that goes after the world title, but Roma could have been the guy that went after the TV title or U.S. title. But instead, right away, they relegate him to tag with Anderson, and it's like it never works.
Yeah. I also believe to that point, even though Paul Roma's really good, they didn't trust him. That's why they put him with Arn in the ring. But Roma could have done the ring on his own.
Right. You can push anybody, and he has the body, and he has like the look, and
he was decent on the mic too, if I remember.
But he never had a shot because he was not what whatever it was back then. What 3 million people watching on Monday night. And saw him, or on the pay-per-view, saw him announce, and you're like, fuck off. He was done from the beginning. He had such an uphill climb from the very, very beginning that it just did not work. He just was not...
Yeah. So was it a missed opportunity, or do you think that never would have worked no matter what?
Honestly, I think he was a talented guy. I think he was a missed opportunity because I think if you do it right, he could have. Because just like in WWF, he had the talent with Power and Glory, and it was working, and just quite that didn't work, and he just had two bad scenarios. Like, I think if you stuck with him, I think if you had some form of build around him and proper push. And Vince had no, actually great plans to push Power and Glory and everything they did, and it flopped.
No, it wasn't in the works. It wasn't in the 2-year program, 3-year program ever.
But Roma was in a very strange position, like 2 federations, like terrible pushes. But an opportunity that was missed.
So I think it's a missed opportunity in the realm of the Horsemen, because after this day they could have done a lot more. A lot of different things, I should say.
Sadly, he was dead on arrival. He was dead on arrival in WCW because of this moment.
Yeah, I don't know. It is a fascinating story.
Yeah, and maybe it was a missed opportunity instead of like me thinking like they should have pushed him different in the Horseman. Maybe just like Craig said, don't put him in the Horseman at all. Bring him in as a singles wrestler on his own and let him just start building his character. On his own.
I personally think both.
Maybe Roma would have been a former TV champion because he was just pretty Paul Roma by himself, like no.
But again, when he did Pretty Wonderful, that was working, right? After that wasn't so bad.
Well,
he won a championship.
It was working in the sense again you relegate him to a tag team. Him and Orndorff, like Orndorff was on the way out because he was way past his prime, and then.
But they were having fun, and people, but they were getting over.
Pretty Roma was funny. I like the name. Good stuff.
Yeah, that was really good.
Pretty Wonderful. Sorry, Pretty Wonderful was good.
Pretty Wonderful was the tag team. I love that. That was a good mixture there. So, for audio fans, give us a listen on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and Google Podcast, or watch our videos on YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel. On social media, can you do us a solid and give us a follow on Instagram or Twitter at O.W.P 2019, or on Facebook at Our Wrestling Podcast.
Or you could just listen to What Happened on Monday. Is Vince stupid? Is he dumb? Why don't they do what I want done? Why don't they do what I think wrestling should be? You can listen to that, or you can listen to us and go on social media like Dave is suggesting. Dave is politely suggesting to you to fucking click on our shit and just be entertained. Missed opportunities. Who else does this shit? Nobody. But go ahead. Go ahead. Listen to your what's going on every Monday night. I have to see the same shit.
What's forbidden? What's a door? I don't know. This is stupid. There's no forbidden. There's no door.
AEW is so stupid. AEW's nothing. He said it's supposed to be an alternative WWE. It's not. It's the same thing.
When you talk about the forbidden doors so much, it's not forbidden anymore. I'm just saying.
Then don't watch.
Doesn't